We are now recording. My name is Major Gregory H. Arabian, and I'm Director of the Oral History Project of Post 41, Corporal Paul S. Marsuabian Post in Watertown, Massachusetts. And we are conducting this oral history of Myron P. Khederian, who is one of the comrades and members of Post 41. The date today is Monday, November 18 of the year 2002. And we're going to be asking Myron some questions with regard to his service in World War II. And Myron, let's see, where are we going to start? Did you draft or did you enlist?
I was drafted.
And that was in April of
April
1943?
Of 1943.
That would be about 2 or 3 months before the invasion.
Yeah.
The invasion took place on June 6th of 1944, so I stand corrected. That'd be a year.
That's a year before.
Yeah.
The year, yeah. Well over a year.
Where were you living when you were drafted?
I was living in Belmont, Massachusetts, where I still live.
You live in Belmont today?
Yeah.
Okay, and can you tell me, in 1943, can you tell me, was there any particular reason why you joined? Did you know you had to go anywhere?
I was drafted. I had to go. There was no question. I had dependents that depended on me. My father had died, but they still drafted me, and I went.
What skills did you have before you went in?
I had no skills whatsoever. I worked as a laborer in a foundry. I was 20 years old.
Really?
I didn't have a chance to get any skills.
Okay. So, so you didn't have much of a choice to select the service.
That's right.
To select which branch of the service you were going to go.
No, not at all.
Did you recall the first days when you went from Belmont to, where did you report to?
Reported to Fort Devens, the induction center there. And,
what did it feel like?
like going to camp, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, we were all bewildered. We had no idea what was coming ahead of us.
And how were the facilities over there?
The facilities, we put into Quonset huts and marched around to get our basic needs, to pick up our clothing and get our medical shot and so forth and so on.
Did you, so far as your marching is concerned, did you take any basic training at Fort Devens?
No basic training at Fort Devens. That was just an induction center.
Yeah. And how long were you there?
Well, that's very unusual. Everybody gets out of there in 3 or 4 days and is shipped out to an area where they get basic training. When I went down for my medical checkup, they found out that I had German measles. I don't know where the hell I got those. Oh. But I ended up being at Fort Devens in the induction center for 1 month because they lost my records. It went out. I was supposedly shipped out. And until they found my records, a good month passed by, and I acted like I was a general in the Quonset hut. When everybody came in, they didn't know whether to salute me.
Okay.
Whatever.
So in other words, they assumed that you had been shipped out earlier.
They had no idea where I was for 4 weeks.
But they knew you had the measles, and that's why they kept you there.
I was in the hospital for a week, and then I came back, and eventually I got shipped to Camp Edwards for basic training there.
Okay, that's down by the Cape.
Cape Cod, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about your boot camp. What did you do down there?
Oh, basic training was basic training. You learned how to march, you learned how to drill, you learned how to hike, you learned how to pack bags, you learned how to clean rifles and disassemble the guns and so forth. And,
what kind of firearms did you use?
Mostly, at that point, rifle. The old, actually at that time we had the old bolt-action rifle.
Was it an M1 or?
No, long before the
Springfield?
M1. Springfield bolt-action rifle, right.
And that shot one bullet at a time?
It shot...
or did you have a clip?
You had a clip, but you had to load it each time.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How did you do?
I was a average shooter. I had one bad eye, so I was never very good.
Okay. Do you remember your instructors?
No, I don't. Not at that point. No.
Do you have any problems with them?
No problem with the instructors. No, I would. You know.
How are the facilities now at the Camp Edwards?
I have no idea. I haven't been back there since.
What do you recall?
At Camp Edwards,
Quonset huts again?
the Quonset huts. I recall that while I was there, somebody come looking for me, and they yelled out a window that your brother had a little boy. So it was my first nephew was born while I was at Camp Edwards.
Really?
I believe that was in about sometime in May or June of '43. Yeah.
Okay. Where is he today?
He's dead.
He's dead.
Passed away. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So, how long did it take to get through boot camp down at Edwards?
About 10 weeks, I guess it was. I had shot boot camp, and then I was shipped out to from there to Fort Adams, Rhode Island.
It'd be around June, July?
Around June, yeah, around June or July.
Where's Fort Adams?
Fort Adams is in Rhode Island, down by in Newport, Rhode Island.
What did you do down there?
As an MP, I went there as a military police.
We're trained to be an MP?
Trained to be an MP.
Where?
At
Edwards or Adams?
Actually, at Edwards, no, there was no training to be an MP. We were just shipped down there to an MP division, and I suppose they thought that they, just by being in the Army, you're an MP.
Oh, I see.
They put an MP band on you, put you on guard duty, or sent you out into Fall River and to walk up and down the streets to see if anything was going wrong.
Okay.
But I was only there about 5 or 6 weeks when they closed that outfit up and shipped us back to Camp Edwards to an MP group, military police unit there.
Okay. So you were an MP at Fort Adams, and you came back as an MP at Camp Edwards.
At Camp Edwards.
Yeah. What happened then?
I was at Camp Edwards, and one night I was doing guard duty on top of the Bourne Bridge that goes over the Cape Cod Canal.
Oh, yeah.
In those days during the war, no traffic could go over the bridge while a ship was approaching or passing under the bridge. And we had guards on duty at each end of the bridge, on top of the bridge, and under the abutment of each bridge going across the canal.
That's pretty strict.
It was very strict at that time. We used to stop the cars for half an hour, 45 minutes at a time.
Was there much of a traffic backup?
Not too much, because there wasn't too much traffic in those. Nobody had cars to drive, and nobody could get gas to drive. And the traffic tie-up on the boats, there would be more traffic tie-up on the boats than there would be on the roads. Yeah. But,
Okay.
While I was there, one night I was on midnight to 6 in the morning, and it was the 1st of August, and I had a heavy Army coat on, and I froze.
Really?
And I said, I got to get the hell out of this place. So.
But this would have been in summer.
It was cold.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And I applied for. I went back to the camp and I applied for the transfer. And that's when what they call the Army Specialized Training Program came into existence, and I was picked to go on that and spent the next 9 months or 7 months at the University of New Hampshire studying engineering.
Really?
Yep.
Oh. So you went to the University of New Hampshire.
Yep.
Did you get a degree there? Or?
No, it was supposed to be equal to 1 year of engineering studies at a college.
What did they teach you up there?
The mathematics, sciences, whatever the subjects were at the time, 4 or 5 subjects.
Did you like that?
It was.
What up there? Was there a base up there?
The university, and there was probably.
You stayed in dorms?
In dorms, there was the whole. There must have been maybe 600 to 1,000 soldiers up there. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe not quite that many, but we filled all the buildings. So all at that time, what happened is the colleges were all starving. All the men were in the service, and the colleges were starving. The government, I suppose, decided to give some income to the colleges in some manner, and started sending soldiers that had IQs of over a certain amount that qualified to college. Luckily, I qualified, and that was my lucky break.
Did you see anybody there who was not a soldier as a student? at the University of New Hampshire?
Only some girls, and there were very few of those at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was pretty much of a military institution.
Mostly military. March back. They had them. They had the same things at Harvard University, Princeton, Yale, Brown, MIT. No matter where you went, you saw soldiers marching back and forth to class.
So you marched to class?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it was all under military
No,
supervision?
everything was under military rule.
Uh-huh. And
Except the classes. The classes were under the professors.
did you
They had the regular
enjoy?
professors were teaching.
Did you enjoy your classes?
Yeah, very much.
What did you like about them?
Well, I was a mechanically minded person. I liked drawing, mechanical drawing and so forth. So the engineering course came good to me, and without that, I never would have had a chance to get into any kind of advanced education whatsoever.
Really?
My possibilities, yeah.
Okay. And so how you went there for a year or so? Did you say?
Oh no, it lasted from until about August.
Yeah.
I think it lasted until just right after the invasion. That's when they broke it up.
June 6, 1944.
44.
Yeah.
And that's when we went to we got shipped through an infantry outfit down in Virginia somewhere, and 2 or 3. We ended up in Camp McCoy, Wisconsin, where the 280th Engineers were being assembled.
So I went from New Hampshire to Virginia.
To Virginia, South Carolina, a couple of short stops. All
You ended up in
route.
Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin.
Okay. All right.
Camp McCoy, Wisconsin.
And what did you do over there?
We finished more basic training with the 280th Engineers, who were now being assembled from a group of inductees. They were there already, and they were probably in their 10th week of basic training when we joined them. And there was quite a few of us from the college that ended up there, and we joined them and finished basic training with them. And when they were ready to go, we shipped out, and that's when we went overseas.
Was more education and training given to you while you were at the Wisconsin base?
Oh yeah, we went through much more. We went through training, the engineering training, which was building bridges, ditches, how to transport bridge materials to the sites, and how to cross rivers, how to build pontoon bridges, Bailey bridges, and foot bridges across impossible, improbable areas.
Really?
Yeah.
So
That's what our expertise was.
Yeah.
And we became, the engineering group. I probably was there 2 months, I guess, close to 2 months.
Yeah. And how did you end up? Did you like what you were doing?
That was you got to understand that we were in the army. You're under dictatorial powers. There's not much to like, but it was enjoyable because now we had a group of people. We became fast friends, very close friends, closer than any relative you might have or anybody else. They were almost like blood brothers.
Have you seen any of them since?
About 6 years ago, we started. 8 years ago, we started a reunion, and the 4 fellows that I was the closest associates with, there was 5 of us. We called ourselves the 5 useless ones.
Yeah.
But we all met again at a reunion, and all
Really?
5 of us were still alive.
Oh, wonderful,
It was
wonderful.
the first time we'd seen each other in 50 years.
Really? Did you use any of the skills that you were taught over there in Wisconsin, Fort McCoy?
Well, no, not really.
You went to Europe.
Yeah, we went to. Oh, well. When you say did we use any skills in the service? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
When we went to Europe, I drove a 2.5-ton truck, in which I carried heavy bridge equipment.
What kind of bridges did you build?
We built mostly Bailey bridges or pontoon bridges.
Bailey bridges.
Yeah. And
member of this post, Eddie Hirosian, said he
Bailey bridges.
built Bailey bridges
Yeah.
too. What's a Bailey bridge?
Bailey bridge is like an erector set type of thing, and you put your girders down, and you put your sides up to hold the things together. And what the idea is that if you got a river to cross, you have to build an extension You build a section of bridge, then you build 2 sections behind it and push 1 section out. You build the whole thing on ground. And to push the first section out, you have to have 2 sections behind it to hold it. And then when you put push 2 sections out, you got to have 3 more behind it to hold it until you can push it all the way across.
Doesn't it sink?
No, it doesn't sink. It goes from land to land.
No, I mean when you put the section of the Bailey Bridge into the water, what keeps it
You don't
afloat?
put it in the water. You don't put it in the water. You keep it above water.
You keep it above the water.
Above water. You're on the land. The water's below you, and you're going to go across this river. And it's not used for real long bridges.
Is this like a cantilever thing? You balance it as you push
exactly.
Push it forward.
Exactly. And you keep pushing it out. And
how big a section is it? In what sections do they come?
the Bailey Bridge is it's hard for me to remember.
Yeah.
I don't know. They must come 15 and 10, maybe 10 yards long.
Yeah. So that takes a lot of trucks to carry all that.
A lot of heavy stuff to carry. You carry the either the lumber or the trusses or whatever it might be that you're pulling on your truck.
Well, are these Bailey bridges used where, for instance, we had, for instance, destroyed one of their bridges and we had to use our own?
No, they've destroyed the bridges, and the roadway is blocked because the bridge is not there.
Even the Germans would have destroyed the bridges.
Yeah, the Germans would have destroyed it as they're retreating, and you'd have to put a bridge in so you get your troops across. Either the troops mostly could somehow get across with a simple rope bridge or whatever it might be, or even a pontoon bridge. A pontoon bridge is where you get these rubber rafts and you put them in the water and they build a bridge on top of it.
Right.
This Bailey Bridge is more permanent.
It's for more heavy equipment.
You could drive trucks and tanks over them.
Yeah. So the idea was to get some heavy equipment up to the front as fast as you could.
Get it up there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And the combat engineers were right behind the infantry usually. The infantry has gone through and swept them out, so now you can go in and put the road. And also, besides that, we built roads, we filled ditches, we built roadways or opened roadways up where there were no roadways. Or if the bridge was blown, you took your bulldozers and take them and you cut around the bridges, cut the abutments down so you get around there. Just to get roadways to get vehicles across.
Okay. And besides the Bailey bridges, what other things did you do?
Like I said,
we built roads.
We built roads. We built filled ditches, pull down houses. You see a brick house, and you blow it up so you get the fill to fill the ditches.
Okay.
All right.
While you were doing all of this, did you ever come across any inventions that were made by the engineers?
Inventions?
For instance, like
the greatest invention.
The hedgerow things in the tanks. They used to cut through the hedgerows.
No, but there was an invention that we didn't see until the war was over. I'm way ahead of myself. But the Americans, if you read the history, when they landed in France, General Patton took off, and he was chasing the Germans, and they thought it was going to take us months to get across France, and Patton was chasing them, and he had his tanks going like hell, and they needed gas to keep up with them, fuel, and they had, I don't know who it was, but somebody had invented and devised a method of pumping gas across the channel. They built a flexible pipeline from, I think it was in Southampton, England, dropped it under the channel, came up in Normandy. And Normandy is where we landed. And they had these sections of pipe, about 4-inch diameter pipe, and the sections might have been 20 feet long. And they put these 20-foot lengths to each other and clamped them. And they could lay miles of pipe in no time flat.
Really?
As fast as they could put the pipe down, they'd clamp it, and in every 5 or 10 miles they had a pumping station.
Really?
And they kept pumping. They tried to stay with Patton. As fast as he's going, they're pumping gas.
Really? So
After
did they
the
have
war,
pumping stations in the channel?
They had, in the channel, they had a pumping station at each end once they landed and secured.
I see.
But once they got on land, every 5 miles or so,
Yeah.
I forget what it was, they had a pumping station to keep pumping that gas across.
So this is better than that Red Ball Express, isn't it?
The Red Ball Express was, yeah, it was much better than Red Ball.
Yeah, yeah. Well, was this done after the Red Ball Express or before?
No, well, long before, long before. This was done right at the beginning of the war, when they first invaded.
Yeah.
Once the invasion was secure, and they had the land, Normandy was secured, they started putting these pipelines in. That pipeline went all the way down from Cherbourg, France, Cherbourg, I believe it was Cherbourg, all the way down the Normandy Peninsula, right across France and Belgium, all the way to Germany.
Isn't that amazing? We haven't heard too much
No,
about that.
that's a story that should be told.
Really?
The only reason I know it is because after the war, our outfit was assigned to pick up all that pipe
Really?
in the whole, in
And
all
this
of
was
Normandy.
steel pipe.
Steel pipe, 4 to 6 inch diameter steel pipe. I would say this big, 4 to
I would
6 inch
say.
diameter.
So
steel pipe.
you picked up this pipe, so you
The
know.
war was all over. We used the German prisoners to pick up every goddamn pipe, put them on a truck, and they shipped all those pipes back to the United States. Why?
Really?
I don't know. We left tanks, jeeps, vehicles piled up and burnt them over there.
Yeah.
But we brought all
You
that
brought
pipe.
back all the
I
pipe.
have no idea why.
When did you first arrive in Europe?
We arrived in Europe in about October of, where are we, 45?
Well, you
No,
went in
40,
43.
no, October 40, October 44. October,
Okay.
November 40, October 44.
That's when you arrived in
In
Europe.
Europe.
Yeah.
We arrived in England,
Yeah.
and we spent about 2 months in England,
Where?
in a little town called Glastonbury.
Yeah.
How it's located, it's just 50, 60, 80 miles outside of London somewhere.
Okay.
And from there, from Glastonbury, we went down to Southampton, England, and boarded boats to go across the English Channel.
Yeah.
The troops did. The guys that were driving vehicles had to go down a few days early and put our vehicles on boats, and we went across separately. On the day that we left Southampton, England, that's right, the day that we left Southampton, England was the Battle of the Bulge began.
Really? Really?
And because of the Battle of the Bulge, priority was given to nothing but infantry troops for replacements. We lost a lot of men as prisoners of war. Kenny Kazanjian was one.
Yeah.
And we got stuck out in the English Channel, which was like a 3-hour ride across the channel. We were there from December the 23rd, I think. I know that I spent Christmas and New Year's in a boat that had no heat, no food, no nothing.
Really?
Christmas to New Year's in the English Channel.
Really? What kind of boats did you?
They were landing transport. They were nothing but steel hull Liberty ships that transported material in short distances.
I see.
And we loaded all the trucks and so forth on this ship, and we were going across the channel, and never made it.
LSTs, I guess.
It was an LST, I suppose. That's
Yeah.
what
You never made it?
Well, we made it, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. So why were you kept in?
because there was a priority for no troops were to land outside of infantry troops.
Really?
Don't forget now, they didn't use airplanes in those days. Everything was by ship or
Right.
truck. There was no such thing as flying these troops over by helicopter and dumping them over there.
Yeah.
The only ones that went over in helicopters were paratroopers. No, they went over by plane. There's no such thing as helicopters.
Yeah.
They didn't use helicopters.
So you got to England in October '44. Then shortly after that, the Battle of the Bulge broke. Is that it?
No, the Battle of the Bulge broke around December the 20th,
December of '44.
December of 44.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
yeah, that's when the Battle of the Bulge, that's when the Germans broke through. And the Battle of Bulge lasted 2 weeks. That was when that general said nuts to you when they asked him
Yeah.
to surrender.
General McAuliffe. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, how soon after Christmas did you arrive in Europe?
Well, we landed shortly after the first of the year, New Year's Day, next day after New Year's Day. Our troops landed approximately a couple of days later. We met up with them outside of Rouen. I think it was Rouen. They landed in Le Havre. We landed in Rouen, and Then we drove down through Normandy, and we drove across France, just driving. There was nothing, and we didn't get into an area of combat till we reached Belgium. I think Belgium.
Describe the countryside that you, from the time
that-
you landed until you got to Belgium.
Well, by the time the countryside was, farmland. Outside of going, we didn't go through any cities. I think we went through Liège later on. I can't really remember.
Do
but-
you see any of the results of the combat?
Oh,
bombing?
all of Normandy was desolate.
Really?
St. Lo, that they bombed the hell out of, was nothing but a big pile of rubble.
Really?
All of the little villages down through Normandy, from Cherbourg down, every town was just a pile of rubble. And there were people living there. They were living under that rubble. We didn't stop too much through there, but we saw it all.
Where did you stay over, for instance?
I don't really remember. I think we got to.
You sleep in the truck, or did you use pup tents?
We probably pup tented one night on the road. Another night we stayed in some Catholic quarters. I forget where that was.
How were you received?
Oh, we were all received fine. There was no problem.
The people
yeah.
enjoy.
The people didn't. They'd already seen the battle go through. They saw all the troops that went through.
They didn't. Did they have any grudge against you for having destroyed their cities or anything like that?
Not really. No, we didn't see any of that. I heard that there was some later on, especially up through Rouen, in Rouen, France. After the war was over, I ended up one time in Rouen, and I believe that's when I was coming home. They said, don't walk around the streets at night. Every night there's 2 or 3 GIs end up in the water.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you drove right straight to.
We drove through to Ludinghausen, which was not Ludinghausen, but to a town in Luxembourg, and we stayed there for maybe a week or so.
Hold it right there. Hold it right there. Here we go. Okay, so we're at Ludinghausen?
Ludinghausen. It was a little town in Germany. But before we got to Germany, we were in Luxembourg. That was our real first stop, where we met. Where we were right behind troops in combat, and we were there for couple of weeks, because there was a lot of areas that we had to fill in potholes and so forth, make roads for the rest of the.
So you're doing basically road building.
Through, right, road building and so forth, for what was coming behind us.
Yeah.
We were attached, at that time we were part of the 9th Army, but I'm not sure.
Did you build any bridges there?
We built one bridge, and that's where I froze my feet. We were in trouble in one area where the bridge abutment had been badly damaged, and they had to get that bridge abutment fixed quickly, because the timbers that we had that were going to be put on had to be done right away. And I was the only one that was big enough, heavy enough to handle a jackhammer. So they gave me a jackhammer to get under the bridge.
Oh, God.
And jackhammer up over my head.
Uh-huh.
And I was standing in about this much water. And about 3 days later, I couldn't get my boots off. When I did, a couple of my toes and my foot were black.
Oh, boy.
So that's when I ended up back in the hospital in Paris.
Oh, Paris.
I went all the way back to Paris. And
how were you set for uniforms and clothing and things like that? Did they supply you with the right clothing?
well, in the
right
beginning,
season?
at that time, they didn't know what we were going to run up against. I forgot to mention that during the time that we were moving up from France, after we landed from France toward Belgium, the worst snowstorms in the history of the region. and the bitter cold, and the snow's piled high. They said they had never seen snows like that, and that's what they were battling.
Of course, the Battle of the Bulge.
During the Battle of the Bulge
was during the snowstorm.
during the snowstorms, and we got caught up in that, and we had snow to our ears, and our trucks got stuck, and that's when I froze my feet, during that snow. And when I got back to the hospital, I ended up in a hospital in Belgium, from Belgium to somewhere else, then eventually in Paris. And the cases of frozen feet that I saw was unbearable.
Really?
There were guys there with legs frozen from their knee down.
Oh boy.
Toes, their little toe was as big as my ankle.
Really?
Swollen and split. Terrible, terrible.
Well, how do they deal with those?
Well,
Amputation?
they shipped them all. It was something I don't think they did any amputations overseas. I think that they just, that was when penicillin was first coming out. And they were spraying everyone with penicillin sprays and powder.
Is that how they took care of the frozen
That's how they
feet?
took care of it. That was the one way, yeah. Because prior to the penicillin, the thing was sulfur. They said put sulfur. Put it. Everybody had a pack of sulfur on them. If you ever got wounded, throw the sulfur in there and swallow a couple of sulfur pills. But if you swallowed sulfur pills, you'd crystallize your fluid, your body. So you had to drink a lot of water. You only carried a can of water if you were lucky.
Okay.
So the penicillin was a lifesaver to those that weren't too bad. Luckily, I wasn't bad. Mine just started to turn black. They worried about it and sent me back, which I'm thankful for. But the cases that I saw in that hospital were unbelievable.
Really?
A lot of men lost their limbs.
Have you ever gone back to the hospital? Paris?
Not Paris, no.
Okay. So the way to Paris had been cleared by the time you got there.
Well, we were way beyond Paris.
Really?
Paris and France. By the time we got to Ludinghausen, which was Luxembourg, France was completely cleared. The only part of France that wasn't cleared, there was a little section up in northern France where there was German troops there, and they were trapped. And they stayed there till the war ended.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So after your hospital experience, where did you go?
Well,
is that when you came back home? Or?
No. That's when I got shipped back to my outfit. I ended up in Patton's army for a little bit. Salute. Everybody had to get dressed in his army.
Oh, really?
When you went into Patton's territory, you had to wear a tie and a jacket and salute all the time.
Did you actually see him?
No.
Yeah.
No. I wasn't there much more than 5 days maybe, and eventually they found out where my outfit was, and they got me back to my outfit, so that we went
Took off the tie.
Took off the tie, and we ended up going through Belgium, crossing the Roer River there, building a bridge across there, up into Belgium, and we built a big bridge there, and we were up into Munster, Germany. I got some pictures of myself standing in that bombed out the big cathedral of Munster. I wonder what that looks like now. They must have rebuilt it.
How far into Germany did you go?
We crossed the Rhine River and went as far as the American troops had gone. We were well into. We stayed in a place called Ludinghausen, which was probably 40 miles, 50 miles east of Essen. We went through Essen, and all the fabricant works, the machine shops, and the big factories in Essen.
Yeah. Were they all bombed out?
Quite badly bombed out. We used an awful lot of the bombed out material that was in those factories for filling ditches.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Exactly what we needed.
You had told me somewhere some time ago that you were asked to use flamethrowers.
Oh yeah, that was back at basic training.
Really?
That was back at basic training. They tied a flamethrower to my back. They said, if we get to the point where we have to attack a pillbox, and there's a thing in there, we'll give you the cover, and you're the flamethrower man, because again, I was the one that could carry the flamethrower. I was also the guy that handled the digger.
Jackhammer.
Jackhammer.
What is this flamethrower all about?
Well,
Just describe it for us.
Well, flamethrowers, you know, you've seen them in the news. In Vietnam, they used an awful lot. Where you had basically had a tank of gasoline on your back, or a liquid that would burn.
Yeah.
And you had a hose, and you had a nozzle over here. And I suppose when you squeezed the nozzle, a spark lit it, and it would throw a flame from here to that door.
Really?
Yeah. And you were to get up to as close to an open window or an open doorway or something in a pillbox to try to burn them out of there, you know.
Yeah. So
but if there was a machine gun nest somewhere, you had to try to sneak around.
You trained on that?
I trained on that. For a couple of days, yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah. But you never used it.
I never used it. Never used it in combat.
Yeah. So
we weren't combat actually hand to hand, or get right up to the front.
Yeah.
We were right behind the troops, infantry troops. Infantry troops. Once they cleared the area out, then we'd go in.
Yeah.
We would go in there to do any shooting.
And you would support them so that more troops could come
That's right.
after
Yeah,
you.
we didn't. We had our own ammunition. I mean, we had our own rifles and our own guns and so forth. But we didn't really expect to do any fighting. Our main problem was to clear minefields, to clear roadways, to clear debris that's in the roadways, so that traffic could get through.
How did you clear minefields?
Well, we had we had guys that were trained in how to go down and how to do it. And you
Is
had
this
to be very
hand to
careful.
hand, or is it like
No, you used a bayonet. If you had to do it by hand, you had to go on your hands and knees by bayonet. Just try and feel around for a mine, and when you found the mine, you disconnected it so it wouldn't blow up.
They had some pictures of some tanks having these revolving chains.
Yeah, anything to make them detonate, you know. Unfortunately, we had one of our truck drivers who was told to stay on the road, never drive off the road, and he backed off to turn his vehicle around, hit a mine and killed him.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So tell us what happened after Ludenhausen. Between then and
well, after Ludenhausen, we then prepared to cross the Rhine River.
Yeah.
The 9th Army, we were crossing up north with the 9th Army, and our outfit was designated to build the roadways going down to the bridge that was going to be built across there, and also to build the roadways going from the bridge up into the away from the river.
How wide a span was the Rhine River that you had to build a bridge over?
The Rhine River at that point has got to be as wide as the Charles River at the widest point.
Really?
Yeah.
Not like the Mississippi.
No, not like the Mississippi.
Yeah.
No, not as bad as
The
that.
Charles River.
The Charles
Well,
River
not...
at its widest point is at the point where we crossed. Now the Rhine River may be wider at some points, narrower at some points, but at where we crossed, it was about the same width, I say, as where the MIT, what Mass Avenue Bridge is. I'd say about that wide.
And how deep?
Oh,
How far below the bridge would the water be?
right, almost. We'd go right across the top of the water.
Right across the top.
Yeah, first we had another outfit put in a pontoon bridge. The first assault across the river for the troops to get across was done by the Navy, and that was the most unbelievable thing I ever saw.
Really?
We were on the night before we were going to cross the Rhine River. We were set up at a spot not more than a half mile back of the river, and at midnight that night, or probably maybe earlier, maybe 10 o'clock, they started an infantry barrage like I'd never heard before. I mean, they threw everything over the other side of the river and just blasted the hell out of the area to make sure that they cleared the way. And there was some air power there. There was some bombing, but mostly it was the artillery. And then we were standing there, and there was a little dirt road coming to where we were, and we heard this big rumbling. God looked out, and it's huge trucks with boats on the back of them. Navy guys, sailors on them.
Really?
Half a dozen sailors on each one. And they say, we're going to cross the river. Then, you know, they came across and they took the infantry troops across. And
So they took the troops across in the boats?
on the boats. And they landed them and they went through.
Really?
And then after they had secured the other side, then we started building the bridges.
So you were just about behind the combat troops?
Right behind, they were there. As soon as they went across, as soon as daybreak, actually at daybreak, they had gone. And then our outfit, one company of our outfit went in and started building a roadway going down to where the bridge was going to cross. Another combat battalion built the bridge, not our combat.
How long did it take them to build the bridge?
A day.
One day?
One day, yeah. They had
Really?
everything done. Oh, yeah.
And you had that was a heavy equipment and stuff?
Everything was going across that bridge, yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Boy, that was awful fast.
Very fast, very
Yeah.
fast. Because we drove our truck across the next day.
Really?
I drove my truck across that bridge the next day to the other side where some of our guys were already putting the roadway in over there.
That's a 2.5 tonner?
Yep.
Right. That's tremendous. Okay. So you kept on building bridges and filling roads and using the rubble to fill out the bomb dump?
Clearing some of our guys were clearing minefield. We lost a couple of guys, lost hands, fingers, but basically, you know, they did a pretty good job. And
So this is what you were engaged in up till the time that you
that's
reached
right.
the end of your
Yeah, from
trail,
there,
so to
from
speak.
there on, we crossed, and once our job there was done, we went further into Germany, into other areas, clearing out, you know, staying behind the troops till the end of the war when they gave up. When they finally gave up, then everything stopped, and we just started clearing up and cleaning up.
This would have been in April of '45.
It had to be in. When was the peace? I don't even remember.
Well, I remember that Roosevelt died in April of '45. It was just about
April
that time.
45.
Yeah. And you stayed in until December of '45,
Yeah.
which was
Oh yeah, because, well,
8 months after the peace. 8 months after the surrender. Is that right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Let's see. Was it June? Did they surrender in June?
I don't know.
Oh, it was the Japanese War ended in June.
The Japanese War ended in August of
Japanese War,
1946.
40,
VJ Day.
is 45.
I'm sorry.
45.
Yeah.
45.
April of '45 was Germany's surrender, and August was the Japanese
Okay.
surrender.
So the April of 45, by June, July, July of August of 45, we were heading back to France.
Uh-huh.
We'd already gone all the way back to a little town called Kederian in Normandy, France. And that was like a vacation.
It was.
We had a German prisoner of war camp there. We used to guard them. And we had a gorgeous beach that we used to go down and swim in with the English Channel.
Really?
And at some time, if you were high enough, you could look right across and see the islands of Guernsey and Jersey.
Really?
Don't forget, yeah.
Okay. So after in your last, your last 4 or 5 months was pretty much peaceful.
It was peaceful. We had a lot of work. As I said before,
You're cleaning up.
we spent a month, 2 months picking up pipe with German prisoners. Take the prisoners out on truck and have them load up truckloads of pipe, steel pipe. And
Did they protest at all?
Who?
Prisoners?
They're prisoners.
Yeah, I know, but
Well, how could
you had
they
to work 'em?
protest?
You had to work them?
No, they figured they had to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, we were working. We were working guarding them. They had to do
Yeah.
something.
Okay.
So they would work all day long from 8, 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They were picking up pipe and we were loading it on trucks, taking it down to shipyards, unloading it, come back for some more. And,
Do you think they were doing? Do you think you were loading pipe simply to give the prisoners something to do?
they shipped all that pipe back to the United States. They put them on boats.
Really?
Yeah. And yet, if you took a ride, at that time, I had a 2-week furlough once. They allowed me to go down to the Riviera, down to Nice.
Oh.
So I took a train from Cherbourg to Paris, spent some days in Paris, went down to Cherbourg. Now the train ride from Paris to what's this? Marseille.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Halfway down through there was a place. As the railroad tracks were going down on the left side, I remember sitting in that train for miles and miles of open field with nothing but Army vehicles, United States Army vehicles of every size and description, bumper to bumper and side to side, as far away in as you could see, sitting there.
Just sitting.
I don't know. They said that they just let them rot or they blew them up. They said airplanes that they just took them to airfields, bulldozed them into piles and blew them up, burned them.
Really?
And yet this pipe they brought back to the United States.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand that at all. Never found out either. So.
Okay. Tell us something, because we're coming to the end of our tape here, the end of our rope.
Yeah.
Coming to the end of our tape. Tell us something between the time that anything interesting you'd like to relate between the time of between August and the end of your service. Anything significant that you'd like to mention?
Well, between August and the end of my service.
End of your service was December 20, 1945, 5 days before Christmas.
5 days before Christmas.
Yeah.
I was very lucky. Because I had a frozen toe, and because I got a Purple Heart, I was allowed to come home about 3 months earlier than the rest of the guys that I was with. I was shipped into a place called Lucky Strike, I guess they called it in those days.
Oh yes.
It was a shipyard,
yeah.
and we waited and hung around there and spent time going into Paris and so forth.
Was it enjoyable to go into Paris because it was a bombed out town, or did you
Paris
really?
was not bombed out.
Paris was okay.
Paris was not bombed out. Paris was in fine shape.
Okay. But were there other cities that were not bombed out that you were able to get R&R from?
No, there was nothing that was bombed out where we had our.
Really?
France was in excellent shape. The Germans didn't do any problems there at all. The people on the south coast of France, I spent a week down there, talked to civilians, and they told me they had more damage from the Americans than the Germans ever gave them. The Germans gave them no damage at all. The Germans were told by their commanders, do nothing to aggravate the French people.
Did you detect any resentment because of the damage?
Yes, yeah, there was a lot of resentment. The Americans along the coasts. There was from the French themselves. A lot of them resented the Americans. Along in Normandy, especially because we bombed the hell out of Normandy, and that's the only part of France that really got hurt. The rest of France wasn't touched by any bombings. Nothing in France, as far as I could see, was ever bombed. Belgium got hit a little bit. Luxembourg got hit a little bit. But France, outside of the coast up near Dunkirk, which I never was near, that's where I told you those German troops were trapped.
Yeah.
They got hurt. In Normandy, the Americans pulverized because they were going to land in Normandy.
Yes, because that's where Omaha Beach is,
and
right?
that's where all our beaches were. And
Okay.
those people did have a lot of dislike.
You had mentioned that you had a Purple Heart
Yeah.
because of your frozen toes.
Yes.
Describe how they awarded you the Purple Heart.
The Purple Heart was awarded to me while I was in the hospital in Paris. We were laying there, and some GI came walking into the hospital room and called out, as he was walking into the room, called out somebody's name and threw him a package, called out another guy's name, threw him a package, and eventually came to my bed, Kederian, yeah, threw a package, and walked out. That was it.
And that was your Purple Heart.
I didn't know it until I opened it up. That's what it was a Purple Heart.
No ceremony, they didn't
No
pin it on
ceremony,
you,
nothing whatsoever.
But later on they gave you the certificate.
Somewhere along the line I must have got a certificate because I have a little piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's not a certificate. It's just a piece of paper that says that it's a Purple Heart.
Kederian got a Purple
Yeah,
Heart.
right.
How did you describe your journey home?
The journey home was a very rough trip. It was on a troop ship, but it was okay. You knew how to handle yourself. You did okay. And I used to get up in the middle of the night and take a shower in the officers' quarters where they had nice fresh water. Otherwise, you took a shower in salt water. But other than that, the food was good. Everything was fine. I got home, landed in New York, was shipped to Fort Devens, and at Fort Devens was discharged, and I couldn't get a ride home. I couldn't get on a bus. I hitchhiked, and I walked the last mile to get home.
Really? How did?
On December the 20th, I walked into my house.
Did you?
December 20th. Yeah. December
During
20th.
your service, did you stay in touch with your family?
Of course. Yeah. I used to write to them all the time.
Using
the email.
V-mail.
No, was it? No, it wasn't email. What was it? V-mail.
V-mail. V for victory.
V for victory.
Right, right. V-mail. So, and you had no unusual lack of food or?
No, food was no problem. We had, at times it was a problem. We had to live on C rations or D rations or whatever it might be, but that everybody else was the same. And since everybody else was the same, you lived with it.
How was the? Did you have any entertainers come over and entertain you?
There was some. I never saw any.
You never did.
I never did.
Okay.
No. One time, Churchill came by in a Jeep, smoking his big cigar, and they said Churchill was there, and I ran up to see him, and I saw him as he was leaving.
Really?
Yeah, but he did visit us.
So the day that your service ended, you were hitchhiking back home from Devens.
From Fort Devens.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you take advantage of the GI Bill after that?
Yeah, I did take advantage of the GI Bill. I couldn't take it. Some guys collected money. I didn't. My family was in dire straits. They needed somebody to work, and I was home less than a week when I got a job and went to work. So I didn't have any vacation between coming home and anything else.
And working.
A lot of guys collected what they called at that time the 52-20 club. You collect $20 a week for 52 weeks. I collected none of that. I did take some educational courses, which the GI Bill paid for. I couldn't afford to go to college because, again, I was needed at home.
What and what business was your family in? The same
My
business?
family wasn't in any business. I got a job at a company called the Howard Clock Products. I would look. Actually, what happened is I got home. And my brother had a wife and a little baby living in a house that didn't have enough room for him, and we were pretty well squeezed in. And he needed a job. He was working somewhere he didn't like. He said, "Go out and see what's out there. See if you can find a job for me."
Was it when you came back? Did you find that there was a lot of unemployment, or was it easy to get a job?
It was. There was unemployment. There was unemployment around.
Was that because of the large amount of GIs
coming home, that type of thing, and you were supposed to have a job where you could go back to if you wanted to. Well, when I left, I was working as a laborer in a foundry, and I had made up my mind that I was not going to be a foundry worker.
That's heavy work.
So besides, it was heavy, dirty
Where
work.
did you go back?
So I looked for a job for him. When I did, I found a job for myself as an expediter for a guy that was a superintendent of a clock factory, the Howard Clock Company in Waltham. And I worked myself up there to be the plant manager and retired from there 40 years later.
Really?
Yeah.
That would be in 1985?
About 1985, yeah.
1985. Okay. We're about to end this interview. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to say anything about with regard to your service?
Well, I think, what I'd like to say is that I hope this gets to some people who think war is glamorous. It's not. It was an unusual thing for us in World War II. People who came after us demonstrated against all this. This was a popular thing for some reason. Everybody wanted to go there and save the country and save the world. Well, I don't think we saved the world, but whatever.
Yeah. So you weren't necessarily opposed to the war.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And,
No, there was nobody. There were very few people that were opposed.
it was
to
a
the
patriotic
war.
thing.
It was a patriotic thing to do at the time, and everybody wanted to do it. And everybody wanted to be part of it.
But so far as today, as these days are concerned, would you encourage anyone to enter the service now?
It's a very difficult thing to say. The service, if you like that type of life, I think it's a good thing. But you got to be prepared that in case of emergency somewhere, you're going to be called, and you might be called to go and serve and die for your country if necessary. But that's
because
what
today
for.
most of the we don't have any more draftees. It's a volunteer army.
It's a volunteer army, and this is what it should be. And there should not have to be a situation so bad that we have to draft.
It.
Now that's the problem. Is that of course after the war, after Roosevelt died and Truman blew up the Japanese with the atomic bomb, I think that eventually that became a peace thing. That bomb became a method of keeping the peace in the world. So let's hope it does. Let's hope that that's what this whole thing ends as.
Okay. Myron, thank you very much for your interview.
Thank you.
And we're going to end this interview. We've been on for about an hour and a quarter, and we're going to end this interview. This is Major Greg Arabian, Judge Advocate and Director of the Oral History Program of Post 41 AmVets, signing off with Myron Khederian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.